So, greetings and welcome to the continuation of our exploration of mindfulness of breathing. And by now I think you'll understand that mindfulness of breathing involves much more than breathing, but that mindfulness of breathing is kind of a foundation on which we begin to open up our awareness to more and more of our experience. And at some point, as we open up to our body, our feelings, our mind activities, mind states, and so there's a kind of an expansion, opening, it's the metaphor I like to use. And so it's not narrowly focused only on the breathing. And at some point, as we do this, the very idea of opening, the feeling of opening, the experience of opening becomes more and more salient and more experientiable, that more and more this stands out, the sense of opening. And in contrast to that, it's possible to feel a closing. And this movement that I'm calling opening and closing can be represented by many words, many ideas. And the Buddha used the word as a word obstructing, that sometimes we cover over and certain activities of the mind obstruct, and others remove the obstruction and has more expansion and openness of attention. And we can see that, I think, relatively easy in some circumstances in life where very quickly we can suddenly get completely caught up in some concern. Completely, the mind, the attention, everything gets focused very tightly around a preoccupation. Someone says something to us which is maybe disrespectful, and the whole universe collapses around that disrespect, our feelings, our ideas, our thoughts, maybe our fears, resentments, whatever it might be. And we get swimming, and that's the story of it. And so maybe there's not much openness anymore to take a bird's eye view of the situation and what just happened and what's happening with us. And then other times, we have that bird's eye view. We have this broad field of awareness, and we're relaxed and open. And someone might do the same thing, say something disrespectful, but we don't close down. In fact, maybe we do the opposite. We actually open even more, like, oh, what's going on here? What's happening here? Let's. I don't even know. I don't quite understand all this, but this is a time to be present and open and take in the full range of what's happening. Myself, the context, the other person, and there's a clear feeling of opening. Being preoccupied, caught up in things, is something that the Buddha says brings blindness and a lack of wisdom. This movement towards opening is movement towards wisdom and vision. And so starting to get a sense of this difference is an important part of this practice. And this becomes more and more relevant when in the process of mindfulness of breathing, we become more attuned to the state of mind, because it's the state of mind that shifts and changes. And so so we certainly can know that we're preoccupied with resentment or caught up in our hurt or whatever it might be, and or in our desires, and we lose touch with everything else around us. And we can know that we're involved in that, but to appreciate the impact that preoccupation has, how it shifts the mind state, it shifts the quality of awareness, the openness of awareness, the ease and receptivity of awareness. That becomes interesting. And so to notice this movement between closing down and opening up, covering over, preoccupied, versus kind of available attention that's open and available because it's not preoccupied. As practice goes along, there's a shift of attention from the details of our life, the stories of our life, the history of our life, a shift a little bit even from our beliefs and ideas, desires, aversions, opinions, and to the quality of the mind state. And we become the custodians of that quality. No one else can be the custodian of the quality of our inner life. And so to begin finding a relaxed, easy way to track it and know it and be able to gently keep opening, keep finding the way of peace, keep finding the way where the mind state is receptive and open with wisdom, with real wisdom, so that we're safe in the situation and can take care of ourselves. So that's kind of the background for this meditation. So if you can begin by assuming a meditation posture, and if it's possible to do a posture that already in the posture expresses a kind of openness, availability to life, to experience. For me, sitting cross-legged, I sometimes really like taking my hands on either side of my hips on the floor mat next to me and lift myself almost off the cushion, like I'm doing now. And so I'm lifting up, and then as I'm lifted up, then I roll my shoulders back a little bit and release. And if I do that, the shoulders roll back a little bit, and the chest naturally feels more open. And that openness of the chest can be one of the reference points for being open. And then gently closing your eyes. And this idea of openness, we can be open-handed, and you might take a few moments to relax your hands, and maybe even turn your hands to palms upward so the hands are open and available. Sometimes expressing openness in the posture is supportive for the heart and the mind to do so, become open. And perhaps you can, as you exhale, relax the shoulders, soften in the shoulders. And whatever softening, release that happens in the shoulders, let that travel down into your chest. And whatever reference point you have for being open-hearted, see if you can establish yourself as open-hearted. Open-chested. And then as you exhale, relaxing the muscles of your face. Sometimes those muscles are very intimately connected to what's happening in the mind. The tightness, the scrunching up, the pulling in, very subtly, the micro muscles of the face. It's as if the mind is a puppeteer with strings that go into the micro muscles of the face. To relax the face, around the eyes, the forehead and temple, the cheeks and the jaw. It might even be helpful to open your mouth slightly so the jaw is not clenched. And then gently, softly float the teeth back together, the mouth back together. So there's a light touch with your lips. And whatever reference point you have for this, as you exhale, can you allow your mind to become open? To be open-minded to your experience now. Open-handed, open-hearted, open-minded. And taking a few moments also to set your body at ease. Be easy with how things are in your body. Maybe easing up if there's any heaviness or contraction, resistance in your body. See if you can find even a slight sense of ease in being present for your body. And if possible, set yourself at ease in your heart with your emotions. Ease up on how you're feeling. Be easy with it. And then set your mind at ease. In whatever way you can a little bit ease up on what's in the mind, or be easy with it. So the awareness becomes a little broader, more available to receive. Awareness is not recruited to help us focus on our thoughts and desires and aversions, fantasies. Instead of being recruited to close down and narrow its attention, letting the awareness be at ease and open, receptive. And then within, whatever openness that's here, whatever ease that's here, to attune yourself to the breathing, the in-breath and the out-breath, breathing through or with open awareness, easeful awareness. As you exhale, letting go of your thoughts. And as you do so, also see if there can be a opening to a wider awareness, or opening to opening. Allowing the mind to have more space and room to silently be aware of breathing, of body. Appreciating any sense of openness or ease or in the state of mind, state of heart, breathing with it, And notice the small and big movements of losing that openness, contracting, getting caught up in something. Nothing you have to feel bad about or criticize yourself for, but simply to be sensitive to that distinction, sensitive to the way the mind can move from being open to being more closed, relaxed to being contracted, preoccupied or being available and open. Breathing with it all, being easy with it all, but clearly aware of the difference and how the mind can move around to different degrees of openness and less openness. No need to analyze or figure anything out, or stay very simple with appreciating if the mind gets more open or more closed. Appreciate which direction mental activity is taking you. And see if you can keep choosing to stay open. Move more. It's very forgiving. It doesn't require a lot of understanding of what's happening, or justifying or criticizing. It's just a very simple movement, opening or closing. And when you can, choose the opening. Choose awareness. being upset about the mind closing down is to do even more closing. To be equanimous about the mind closing down is to contribute more opening as we become more aware and simply recognize what's happening, allowing the recognition to be wide and open. And then in the last minutes of this sitting, maybe knowing it's the last minutes, you could let yourself become more open. Maybe quiet the mind more and open up in a way that the heart and mind is broad and silently receptive. Whatever degree of ease, just being here. In a certain way, nothing to do, nothing to be, nothing to prove, just here, with awareness open, relaxed, maybe even soft. And perhaps trying to keep it that way and see what happens. Bring to mind some person that has been part of your life lately or will be today. And see if you can hold the image, the idea of this person in your mind without closing, without getting caught up in thoughts and stories and feelings. Just for a few moments, let the idea of the person float in the openness of the mind. And in doing so, does that make it possible to have more wisdom, more clarity about something about yourself and them? Might it make a little bit more room for a simple goodwill, friendliness or generosity of heart? And if so, maybe softly, gently give expression to that goodwill with these words. May this person be happy. May this person be safe. May this person be peaceful. May this person be free. And may you, in staying open and at ease, in some ways contribute to this being possible. In some simple ways, can you contribute to their happiness, safety, peacefulness, and freedom? So at least they're safe from you. And then to expand that goodwill out into the world more widely, but without closing down. Err on the side of staying open and simple. And in that openness, may all beings be happy. May all beings be safe. May all beings be peaceful. May all beings everywhere be free. So, the mindfulness of mind, or breathing in, experiencing the mind, breathing out, experiencing the mind. And I'm in, what exactly chitta mind is, I'm arguing that we can't really know what the Buddha had in mind. But I wanted to read you part of the definition in the Pali Text Society Dictionary. So the more or less a standard Pali English dictionary. It was written over 100 years ago now, but it's still an excellent resource for understanding this. And they have a wonderful little entry for chitta, the word that we're mostly translating as mind. It says, the meaning of chitta is best understood when explaining it by expressions familiar to us, as, for example, with all my heart and soul. I have no heart to do it. Blessed are the pure in heart. Singleness of heart, all of which emphasize the emotional and connotative side, more than the mental and rational side. It may therefore be rendered mood, disposition, state of mind. So some people prefer to translate this word chitta as heart or as heart-mind. It kind of touches into the emotional side of all this more than the word mind. Might even feel a little bit dis-emotional, not so connected to our emotional life. And also when some people like me treat mind and awareness almost as synonymous sometimes as we get into deeper meditation, that also might kind of lend itself to the idea that we're kind of being removed a little bit from the embodied emotional life that we have. And which may be a little unfortunate. Maybe this, whatever chitta is, whatever the mind is, whatever awareness is, maybe it's a rich world that includes our emotionality to to important ways. And so in the step 7 and 8 of mindfulness of breathing, it's looking at the mental activities, recognizing the mental activities in the mind, and then relaxing those mental activities, or tranquilizing or calming them, which is that movement to opening, having the mind become open, not contracted. And as I said earlier, the mind that's preoccupied mind gets hijacked. Attention gets hijacked by our desires, by our aversions, by our doubts, by our restlessness, our anxiety, and it's almost like the times are like a black hole that attention falls into, and it doesn't really come out. There isn't like we step back and get the bigger picture. We get swept away in our preoccupations, our thoughts, our fantasies, the stories, our resentments, all these kinds of inner world of what goes on. And these are all mental activities that hijack awareness. And there are other mental activities that enable awareness or open the mind, that doesn't hijack but rather enhances the quality of the mind. So the Buddha made the distinction between mental factors that do the closing the mind, those that open, is a distinction between what's called the five hindrances and the 7 factors of awakening. The 5 hindrances are strong sensual desire, lust, craving, aversion, ill will, hostility when it's strong, sloth and torpor, lethargy, resistance, and then agitation, restlessness, anxiety, regrets, kind of agitated states of preoccupation, and then confusion, uncertainty, doubt, that can really, we get lost in a rabbit hole of doubt and confusion. And these can have very strong gravitational pulls, and we get pulled into them. They can come sometimes with a lot of authority, like this is really important, I have to be involved in this. And but the consequence is that attention gets hijacked. And for the Buddha, when attention gets hijacked like this, he calls that a loss of wisdom, a blindness, an obstruction to the mind, a covering over of the mind, makes the mind fragile and brittle and hard, and whereas the other that opens the 7 factors of awakening, those are awareness, mindfulness itself, um, a clarity of mind that's sometimes called investigation, effort, joy, tranquility, samadhi, concentration, and equanimity. And all those can work together as a whole, and each of those can operate singularly to really kind of open the mind up and open the inner quality of the inner life. And this is where the emotional side really comes to play. I mean, one of the most sublime, beautiful emotions that's hard for the people who haven't experienced it to appreciate is the quality of equanimity. It's a beautiful kind of feeling. Tranquility has a kind of almost an emotional quality to it. It's really strong and embodied and broad and has a warmth and clarity to it, stillness and peacefulness. Joy, of course, seems emotional. Samadhi is an integration, a bringing together of all aspects of our life, including the emotional. So, but what these 7 factors of awakening are, they are characteristics or supports for awareness itself, for mindfulness itself. And so the more that they operate together with awareness, they tend to open awareness, strengthen awareness. They create vision. They support wisdom. They remove obstructions. They remove the coverings that keeps us from seeing things clearly. And they make the mind malleable, soft, workable, ready to do the work, receptive maybe to do work. And so here we're talking about mental activities, kind of, that represent this divide between becoming more closed or more open. And it's possible to cultivate each of the 7 factors of awakening by itself, to be attuned to them and learn to recognize them and support them. And it's also, they tend to grow in the wake of really emphasizing mindfulness, attention here, but being attentive that the mindfulness, whatever way we practice it, in and of itself is not a closing activity. That is, there isn't some other factors that come along with mindfulness, like striving or expectation or pushing or contracting around the mindfulness that begins moving it in the direction of the hindrances, closing down. So this ability to track the mind state allows us to protect the mindfulness from being hijacked that way. And so we can try, the mindfulness, now it's getting closed more as I try hard, and maybe I can find a way to be more open, more relaxed. And this simple movement from being more closed to being more open, what yesterday I used for Gail Fronsdal, the technical terms, ouch and ah, what involves more stress or more suffering, more discomfort, and what goes in the opposite direction. To be able to see that simple divide is one of the primary characteristics of the 2nd factor of awakening. As I said, usually called investigation, but is really a clarity of mind that sees this valence, sees this distinction between the ouch and the ah, being closed and being open, becoming blind or lost in our preoccupations, and opening up and having vision and clarity of what's happening. So this is one of the great advantages of beginning to tune into the mind state. And as I said in the meditation, it's fascinating, it's fascinating because they're very valuable and even healing, because just being attentive to that simple movement can free us from having to get caught up in the details of what's happening, whether it's right or wrong, or am I a good and bad person because of what I'm doing this way, and You can have the worst thought that any preoccupation that anybody's ever happened in the history of humanity. And in this mind state thing, it doesn't really matter that it's the worst thought anybody's ever had. It just matters that you recognize that you closed down, you got tight, and that there's an opportunity then just to allow yourself to open and just let it go, let it kind of recede and move towards the openness of mind. And so that simple movement, that's the direction to go, can make the practice in some ways much simpler and very forgiving. So the mind state. And that's what we're doing today. And we will continue tomorrow, and then starting on Monday, the idea is to go through these 7 factors of awakening, and hopefully, as we kind of linger in this area of the mind state, it's such an important one, and then we'll go on from there. And so, thank you very much, and I look forward to our time together tomorrow.